For many city slickers, home comes in the form of an apartment. Transforming said apartment into a luxury oasis away from the hustle and bustle, now that makes for a finest home in our books. South African homes have really come into their own over the last few decades. Generic imitations have made way for modern masterpieces and character-filled spaces. Finest Homes explores some of these creations, talking to the visionaries that's bringing them to life. Join us as we explore some of these spaces, showcasing the interior design, architecture, and landscape design. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we're stepping it up a level. And by up, we mean 4 floors to a finest apartment transformed by architect and interior designer Ivan McCarthy Peens. Before we explore this grand renovation on a small footprint, I paid Ivan a visit at his studio and showroom to talk about bespoke design, custom furniture, and the importance of supporting local design.
Hello. How are you? Oh, thank you for having me. I love this space. Wow.
Meuble fine furniture can be described as soft, warm, and contemporary. Ivan and his team aim to design and manufacture timeless furniture pieces that will be relevant for years to come and last generations. Ivan, you have a beautiful space here, super calming. I love it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was very important for us to turn down the tempo of what's going on in the outside world, and we want our interiors and our furniture to reflect that.
Yeah, I love it. I love everything that I see here, and I just want to know, what is it about custom or bespoke furniture that has the ability to just elevate a space, especially in relation to maybe smaller spaces?
I think it's always important to have craftsmanship at the forefront of manufacturing. Using quality products always kind of elevates the product in itself, and it's from a customization point of view, especially with smaller spaces, I think it's super important that the size of the product must actually fit the space. Yeah. Often if you just buy from general retailers, the size is a little bit off, or it might be a little bit too big or too small actually. So with customization, it's always nice that you can get it just right.
How would you use color and texture to make a space feel more coherent?
I think especially we manufacture a lot of timber furniture, so the amplification of our timber grain is something that we play with quite a bit. We want to express the grain on larger scale platforms. For example, on the server over here, we actually manipulate the color of the grain a little bit so that you can see how beautiful it actually etches into the piece itself.
Yeah. Any tips on what one needs to consider when it comes to furnishing a smaller space?
I think it's always important to buy the best that you can possibly buy. Yeah. We don't want people to buy more, we want people to buy better.
Yeah. Well, this is a really exciting time for South African designs. How important is it for you to support local?
Oh, it's fundamental to our business. Without support of local designers, we wouldn't be here. Yeah. And wearing a hat of a manufacturer, but also of a specifier, because we also do interior design and architecture, it is fundamental. I think it's super important.
So from one gorgeous space to another, I know that you've just recently completed another amazing project. Shall we go and check out how you incorporated all of those design elements into a smaller space?
Fantastic. Let's go.
Let's go. With a focus on local design and navigating the challenges of transforming a confined space, I can't wait to see how Ivan applied his skill as an architect and interior designer to what used to be an existing 2-bedroomed apartment. Oh, wow. I did not expect this. I really like it. I really like it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, take me through the flow, the functionality, and the design of this kitchen.
I think it's always a wonderful to get started on a project is to see where you can hide everything, especially in small spaces. Kitchens, yes, we want them to be the heart of the home, but in smaller spaces, we can't dedicate all the space just to the kitchen. So we use quite a few tricks in this kitchen specifically. First of all was the use of the materials. So we've got marble stone tops and then also with the wood. But then to break all that up is we've actually divided up into a second part of the kitchen, which is then painted this beautiful green.
Love it.
So just by having these different materials, we've really kind of broken it up so that it doesn't feel like such a big intervention in the space, but that it needs to house everything that it's still going to hide.
Yeah. Ivan, I love the functionality of this kitchen. I know somewhere there's a fridge. Let's talk about the different techniques you've incorporated within a smaller kitchen to get it to look this functional.
When we want to hide all these utilities, it's always nice to put it behind a closed door. So we've integrated a fridge and a freezer in here, but also a pantry.
There we go.
So it is nice that all these beautiful things can just be hidden, that we don't have to be confronted with that chaos all the time.
Yes, yes.
What's also very nice about smaller spaces is to have a scullery dedicated also behind a closed door, and that's just behind me over here. So without breaking all the natural light that we actually get from that side, we've used a diffused reeded glass, which gives the necessary privacy, but also still allows all the natural light.
This is so true.
We also found the opportunity for a little hidden gem behind this wooden box that we have over here.
Yeah.
And there's a wonderful space for a guest bathroom. Also, once again, in a small space, to have an added extra bathroom is always wonderful.
That is amazing. One of the things that I'm quite interested to find out about is the brief from the client. What exactly was it, and how did you interpret the brief?
The client asked us for a home away from home. They live in Johannesburg, and this was a second place for them. So we really wanted to focus on the quietness and the feeling of being home. We want the client to feel held and to feel safe, and I think we got that right in numerous different ways. The way that we dealt with this is to start with a very neutral palette. We've got this beautiful parquet oak floors, which we actually lifted everything up and relaid them so that the pattern continues throughout the apartment. And that gave us a very nice neutral base. And then on top of that, we can play around with all the color. Yeah. So I think that neutral palette is always a good starting point for a calm, kind of restful interior.
Very cool. Were there any renovations that took place, and what did they entail?
So we actually started out as a 2-bedroom apartment, which we then converted into a 1-bedroom apartment. So we did it the other way around a little bit.
It's not every day you hear about that.
Yes, but I mean, we had the wonderful opportunity to actually incorporate the existing bedroom to make that into the lounge now, and to incorporate that space into the open living area.
Yeah, I love that.
Behind you over there, you'll see the study. I think work from home spaces have become really important over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And this is something that we actually incorporated a little bit later from our initial design. Right. And what's beautiful about it is that it can still be fully closed up for the privacy of the office without having it feel like you're in your workspace the whole time. Yeah. And as a continuation from the scullery, we used the reeded glass, once again, not to lose the natural light, but just to kind of create that little bit of privacy to what's going on behind it.
Wow, that is incredible. But I'm always fascinated to know, were there any challenges that you encountered along the way?
Building work is always challenging. So I think, first of all, dealing with body corporates is a whole different story. Luckily, this one was very kind to us. You always have people who need to give the necessary approvals but don't always understand how. So I think it's part of our job as architects and designers to actually make it easier for these kind of authorities to give us the necessary approvals of what we want to achieve. Yeah. Working within existing spaces, you already have a predetermined envelope of the existing building. So there are always limitations in terms of where you can actually close up or open up. Yeah. And here we had an existing column structure There's some floors above us still, so some of those columns we unfortunately couldn't take out because that would be disastrous. One of the ways that we actually dealt with one of those challenges is in the little jewelry box behind us. There's actually a column there right next to the fridge that we just clad in timber, and then that became the fully integrated kind of wooden box.
Yeah. You know what I love about this apartment is how you changed a bedroom into a lounge, and I would very much love to go and check out the flow of that area. Shall we do it?
Let's go.
Awesome. Stay with us as after the break, we explore more of this finest apartment and how it all came about. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we're spending time with architect and interior designer Ivan McCarthy Peens. We started off at his studio and showroom talking about local design and the importance of bespoke and custom design furniture. We then stepped into a finest apartment that enjoyed a full renovation by Ivan and his team. An apartment that makes use of clever design features to maximize on the available space, while striking the perfect balance between color, texture and scale to create a truly pared-back home. Oh yes, home sweet home. So nice. One of my favorite parts of this entire apartment is your selection of furniture. Let's talk furniture for a moment, and also some of the more bespoke pieces that you've included here.
I always like to use different styles of furniture mixed together, especially when you mix older stuff and newer stuff together. That's kind of where you create something a little bit more unique rather than just having everything new and everything shiny. So here we used some existing old rocker chairs, which we had upholstered in this beautiful kind of banana yellow. So we call those the banana chairs, which is a little bit fun. And the use of color in the furniture gave us an opportunity to be a little bit more playful. Life is so serious. Yes. We don't need to live in serious homes all the time. So it was wonderful to incorporate this beautiful plum velvet. We want everything, you want to touch it, right? So we want all this kind of luxurious feels. So here we've incorporated a lot of velvets for that kind of haptic, touchy, feely, comfortable kind of ideas.
I love it. It's beautiful, it's not too much, and it all really works. Something that I think also has to work is lighting in a space, and you have included some pretty awesome lighting fixtures. Do you want to take us through those?
Lighting can make or break a space. Yeah. And I always like to use different styles of lighting together. Obviously you have main task lighting. You want to be able to put a light on, and if your earring fell, find it. But then also to kind of bring the mood right down. And wall lights are always a very quick and kind of easy tool to get the mood in the right spot.
It's all about the mood at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Are there any features that you particularly feel stand out the most when it comes to some of the spaces that we've already talked about, be it the kitchen, maybe the dining room, even the study area and the lounge?
I think the use of color has really been the golden thread in this apartment. Yeah. If you had to say, we've got a purple sofa on a blue carpet with yellow chairs and a green kitchen and a red oven, that can sound like quite a lot. Yeah. But I think we've managed to actually put it together in a way that's still quite calming and not too offensive, which I think is a good thing when it comes to interiors. Offensive interiors are never a good thing.
Never a good thing. Well, Ivan, I love color, so this is definitely up my avenue. But I also love that even though you've incorporated a lot of color with the furniture, you've kept the walls pretty neutral throughout. Is there a reason for that?
Most definitely. I think if you keep the envelope of a space neutral, it also affords you the opportunity to mix it up and change it as you go along. It's not about commitment issues, I promise. It's more just about having the option. You know, if you have a red interior, that's a big commitment. With a neutral palette, it's easier to change things up every now and again.
And update the look if need be.
Exactly.
Very nice.
So we've got I think I mentioned the natural oak parquet flooring earlier, but then just to extend that neutral palette all the way up to the ceiling, I think is quite successful, because in essence you then create a little gallery where all these little beautiful colourful pops can happen in between.
Ivan, let's talk about the main bedroom and your design approach for that space.
Traditionally, one would have quite a big door to the main ensuite to kind of say this is where the master sleeps. But here, because we took the circulation space away and introduced that already as the walk-in wardrobe, we wanted to flip it around a little bit and have quite a discreet entrance into the main bedroom. And then secondly, from that, the door between the main bedroom and the bathroom, we decided to make that into a double door. So it feels a little bit wider, but because traditionally or usually you'd only open the one door, you're actually opening up a little bit smaller. So that's a nice trick in smaller spaces to actually make it feel a little bit more grand.
Yeah. Do you know what I also love is the fact that the sliding door, especially this one which leads to the bedroom, is painted the same color as the walls.
Yes, so we've that's once again a little color trick. So even though it's a sliding panel, painted the same color as the wall, it is nice that it is so discreet and that it can fully disappear. And similarly to the utility storage in the bedroom, we've actually got some integrated joinery pieces there, painted the same color as the wall, and it fully disappears.
Wonderful. What would be your top 3 tips for designing a smaller home or apartment?
I would definitely start at hiding appliances. I think those ugly washing machines and fridges are things that we don't need to look at every day.
Put them away.
And we can put it in a beautiful piece of joinery. The second would definitely be to integrate joinery from a floor to a ceiling, so that it doesn't read as a furniture piece, but rather feels that it's part of the architecture of the space. And thirdly, I would say that the versatility of furniture pieces is really important. I think it's wonderful that a bedside table can also become a side table in the lounge, but it's also a stool that can be taken outside. So I think versatility is really important.
An apartment to love, Ivan has created a home that lives up to the notion that less can mean rich in textures, layers, and even colors, while still being minimal. After the break, we sit down with Brandon James of Studio James to get his take on a monochromatic design scheme. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we met up with architect and interior designer Ivan McCarthy Peens, who shared a recent project of his, a 2-bedroom apartment that was converted into a 1-bedroom with spacious office space. It's a dance of muted tones with accent colors in strategic places. Showcasing clever design features to maximize on space, Ivan's execution is testament to how considered design can elevate a space no matter the footprint. With the apartment having enjoyed the clever use of color throughout, while still maintaining a pared-back feel, we sat down with Brandon James of Studio James to get his take on a traditional monochromatic design scheme.
When I think of a monochromatic scheme, I think sophisticated, I think something that is pared back, it is simple, it can go in a few directions, it can go classic, it can go contemporary. It is something that could be very timeless, something that will last for a long time. The only key would be to keep it warmer, on the warmer side, warmer tones of white rather than cold tones of white, but otherwise absolutely it can run through an entire home. I think nowadays we're seeing very sophisticated black and white. You can have a play on a bit of high gloss with matte white, but we're definitely seeing it still, and I think it's something that we will be seeing for a long time. I like to use a 60-40 color ratio when using black and white or monochromatic, 60 being the lighter of the colors, and 40 being the darker colors, keeping them on the bottom half of the interior so that it's not heavy on the eye. So your major furniture pieces would be on the lighter side so that they're not too heavy. Moving into artworks and accessories, perhaps rugs, you can go on the darker end. Due to black and white being a constrained color palette, you're relying on shape and texture to really bring out visual impact. In terms of shape and texture, you could introduce that by means of objets or vases or candles that have shape and interest. When it comes to soft furnishings, I like to keep that neutral palette, keep it nice and simple and clean. You can accessorize with scatter cushions with patterns in them. Curtains the same, but you can add interest by adding a black border to a curtain or a striped fabric that has a bit more interest and detail in it. So I've chosen a few fabrics here. The boucle, for example, could be on an ottoman at the end of a bed. It could be your headboard fabric, coupled with a linen look for your curtains. When it comes to designing a monochromatic kitchen, starting with your darker cabinetry on the bottom, moving onto a light stone countertop, perhaps a beautiful clean white tile splashback, and then your upper cabinetry can all be white or light neutral. That way you've got your darks at the bottom and your lighter tones on the top, so as not to be heavy on the eye. Monochromatic doesn't have to be all clean white and black only. I like to use examples of light natural in place of white because black and natural pairs well together. You don't have to be limited to black and white only. To bring in added interest, one can also introduce greenery inspired by the garden, things that you have in your home already that complement the black and white or black and natural scheme that you have. An absolute no-go for me in this scheme would be cold whites. You want to keep those whites warmer and embracing. Same goes for lighting. You want to keep the warmer lighting rather than a cool light. An absolute yes for me in this scheme would be black and white checkerboard flooring. This can come in many forms of black and white marble, black and white ceramics. Keep it very simple. It's a beautiful contrasting base to set the tone of your home.
That's it for this week. Do join us again next week as we bring you another finest home.